Hello and welcome to our first live and ticking event of 2023 on heart health and the gut. I'm Fearghal McKinney, head of British Heart Foundation, Northern Ireland. January is often the month where we reflect on the previous year and decide to break bad habits and get in better health. In this event, we'll not only hear from one of our incredible BHF-funded researchers investigating the link between bacteria that's present within the gut, T cells, and the development of atherosclerosis. But we'll also hear from our dietitian, Tracy Parker, who'll share some great tips on how we can improve our diet to keep our gut and hearts healthy. Just to remind our audience as well, we've lots of resources to support you on our website if you're looking to make healthier changes at the start of this year, including our Health Unlocked community, where people with heart and circulatory diseases and their loved ones can share tips and similar experiences. We also have a brilliant hub with lots of useful information about taking control of your weight and eating healthier with a useful recipe finder. You can also call our heart helpline if you or a loved one would like to speak to one of our clinical team for more advice. So before we kick off, I'd like to ask our audience to take part in a quick poll for us to gauge your current understanding of your gut and heart health. And if you could rate your understanding of your heart health, diet and gut, 1 very low, 2, 3, 4, etc., up to 5 very high, depending on your understanding. So I'll give you a wee second to do that. Now, before I introduce our speakers, I'd also like to remind our audience you can ask questions during the event. Post your questions in the Q&A section on Zoom, and we'll answer as many of them as possible after our talks. You can also use the thumbs up button to upvote any of the questions, especially if they are a similar question to one that you've asked. Now, I'm going to introduce Dr. Meritxell Nus Chimeno to discuss her work. Apologies, Meritxell, for just stumbling over your name.
Okay, let's see first. Let's share this. Okay, thank you very much for the introduction and for the invitation today. And I hope that by the end of this talk, you will all be convinced to donate poo for science. So I work on a disease that unfortunately might be affecting everybody in this session, and it is called atherosclerosis, that it leads to the blockage of the arteries. And for many years, we have thought that this is a passive disease in which lipids and fats accumulate in the arterial wall. But now we know that, in fact, it is an active inflammatory disease in which not only fat and lipids, but also cells coming from the arterial wall and immune cells, that these are the cells that protect us from the infections, are accumulating here in the walls, formating these plaques. Eventually, these plaques can break and they give rise to these thrombus that, if they reach the heart, we will have a heart attack. And if they reach the brain, we will have a stroke. And seeing this in real life, here we have some images from a heart. This is from a person that has arrived into A&E with chest pain. And when they see, he will be then sent to imaging with this X-ray, and here you can see a blocked artery. What they will do is then a little surgery to introduce a little tube in the artery, and now you can see on the picture on the right that this artery is not blocked anymore. Unfortunately, because there has been a few hours or even days that this artery hasn't been going to this part of the heart with no nutrients and oxygen, then this part of the heart will have a little scar. And as you can see in this video, all the heart will be contracting, but not this part of the heart where we have had the heart attack. But luckily, this person has survived, and this is the important thing. So we are very lucky because 40 years ago, they were discovered some drugs that are amazing for treating atherosclerosis, that they might be very familiar for you, and they are called statins. But unfortunately, this is not enough for everybody. And there is still people who have low cholesterol levels, but have high inflammation, and they are still what we call a residual inflammatory risk. This is a high risk of having a heart attack. So this is the people for which we are trying to target the immune response, the immune cells. But of course, we cannot target the whole immune response, because if we do this, then the person will be very prone to have fatal infections, and you couldn't survive because of an infection. So what we need to do is to try to target specifically a cell type of the immune response, or a function on this cell type. And this is what I am trying to do. So I discovered a few years ago that there are two cell types that they have very difficult names, but they are really cool because they protect us from atherosclerosis. They are called marginal zone B cells and T follicular helper cells. And their interaction is very important to protect us from atherosclerosis. And they both modulate each other. So for example, the marginal zone B cells is necessary for the motility of these T follicular helper cells. And at the same time, this T follicular helper cell is modulating the release of protecting antibodies by these marginal zone B cells. They are both regulated by diet. So I wonder if also gut microbiota could be regulating these cell types. And this is how I started my research project. But before I talk about this, I'm going to talk a bit about myself and how did I end up studying this. So I started my scientific career in Spain, where I am originally from. I did my PhD in this very nice building in the Faculty of Pharmacy under the supervision of Professor Sánchez Muniz, who is the person who inspired me to work in atherosclerosis. There I was working in clinical trials, feeding people with functional foods and seeing what happened to their cardiovascular risk. But then I wanted to understand how we were changing and modulating the cells. And this is when I moved to another lab in this research center in Spain, that is the National Center of Cardiovascular Research, under the supervision of Dr. de la Pompa, who is a world expert in intercellular signaling. So here I was able to study and understand which are the molecules that are regulating the functions of the cells. But as I have told you, from my point of view, the most important cells in atherosclerosis are the immune cells. And and I had here in this, when in Madrid, a fellowship that the last year I was able to go to any place in the world. So I decided to come to Cambridge, because here the lab of Professor Malat, he's a world expert in the role of the immune response in atherosclerosis. So I came here 10 years ago, and here I create my own niche of investigation and my own research group. And now I'm working, as I told you, on how the diet is affecting these T cells. And I have to say that I have been here for 10 years, and one of the main reasons is because of the British Heart Foundation, because they have supported me and funded me all these years. They have even given me very recently a personal fellowship. And also, I am very lucky because we have recently moved to this new building that is called the Heart and Lung Research Center in Cambridge, that has been partly founded also by the British Heart Foundation. And it's not only a very beautiful building outside and even inside, that we have these walls even where you can see the drawings of the arteries. It is also one of the leading centers in the world that where there are clinicians and basic scientists working together in order to fight atherosclerosis. And now coming back to what we are here today about the gut bacteria, let me explain you what are these gut bacteria. So they are the trillions of microorganisms that are in our guts. And they have different functions, like they ferment food. They also protect us against pathogens, and they stimulate the immune response, and they produce vitamins and other nutrients like vitamin B, for example, or vitamin K, that they release into the bloodstream, and this is how they are acting into all the other organs in the body. And what do we know in general about this gut bacteria and health? So we know that the more diverse they are, the more healthy they are. And the only way we have to obtain a very diverse gut microbiota is having also a very diverse diet. And so far, one of the best diets that have been proven to have effects on heart disease is the Mediterranean type diet. And what happens if we eat a high-fat, high-cholesterol diet? So this is going to lead to not diverse bacteria, and they are going to be very boring bacteria. So we really need to eat everything, but I think we are going to hear more about this in the next talk. So what do we know about gut bacteria and atherosclerosis? So there are only a few studies, and in general, they lead to some controversial results. But in general, we can say that if we eat a diet rich in red meat or a diet rich in fats, we will have an accumulation of nutrients that are deleterious for atherosclerosis. This is, for example, this 3-methylamine or the microbe-associated molecular patterns that what they are going to do is to accelerate atherosclerosis. But if we eat a diet rich in fiber, we will have lots of something called short-chain fatty acids, and these are going to protect us from atherosclerosis. And now I'm going to explain you which is my my project. Well, so I work in mice, and I put these mice that they develop atherosclerosis. They are mice that develop atherosclerosis. We put them in 2 different diets: a normal diet and a high-fat, high-cholesterol diet. And as you can see, that depending on the diet, there was a change in their gut bacteria. Because here you can see, for example, that after having the high-fat diet, they have an increase in these blue bacteria. And this leads to the formation of atherosclerosis. What we are seeing here is the heart, and this is the entrance of the main artery in the heart. And this is highlighted in black. You can see the atherosclerotic plaques. So when they eat a high-fat diet, they develop atherosclerosis. But what happened now when we put the same type of mice, but now they are living in another area, and they are then germ-free mice. They don't have any gut bacteria, they don't have any gut bacteria. So now what it happens is that they are still developing atherosclerosis, but they are developing less atherosclerosis. And why are they developing less atherosclerosis? So we believe that because when we check the whole immune response, we found that these mice that germ-free do not activate their T cells like it is happening in the normal mice after a high-fat diet. So now what we are doing is that we have isolated these T cells from the normal mice and the germ-free mice, and we have now a list of, we have got their genetic material, and we have now a list of genes that we are going to study and we are going to target and to inhibit to see what happens to their gut bacteria. So the idea is that, and we are going to correlate these genes with different gut bacteria in order to, in the future, be able to make probiotics to regulate these T cells in atherosclerosis. And finally, also, we are doing some, we have started some human studies, and this is a collaboration with a very big clinical trial that is happening in Cambridge now. That is, what they are doing is people with heart attacks, they are giving this molecule that it is called interleukin-2. And what it makes is to increases the good T cells. So we are getting a sample of feces at the beginning and at the end of the treatment for these people. And this it will give us information about, for example, if some people are responding better to the therapy than others, depending on their gut microbiota. Because as we explained at the beginning, not everybody responds the same to the same therapy. So this will be very important to develop in the future personalized medicine. And finally, I would like to acknowledge everybody in my group and also in my extended group, that this is the group of Professor Malat. and my collaborators in Austria and Germany, and of course my family, because I can only do science if I have a very supportive family. And thank you for listening.
And Meritxell, thank you for that very illuminating talk. And I know in my head it's thrown up a number of questions, so you in the audience may want to ask questions. Don't forget you can pop them into the question and answer session, and I see some people are already doing that. Now can I turn to our next speaker. Tracy Parker is our heart health dietitian at the British Heart Foundation. Tracy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, thank you very much. Yes, so I've been a dietitian now for a long time. Initially started off working in the NHS, specialising in nutrition for cardiac patients, so worked inpatient, outpatient, cardiac rehab. But I've been working now at the BHF for nearly 14 years. And what I like about my job is I work very well across the organisation. So I work with lots of different departments and groups of people, and our main aim really is to ensure that all our nutrition information is accurate and up to date. So I'm just going to share my screen as well and get slides going. So I'm going to focus on how you can eat well for your heart, but as you heard from Meritxell's presentation, which was a great presentation, that eating well for your gut is also good for your heart. So there's synergy in the diets that we need to eat, the foods that we need to eat well for your heart and for a healthy gut. So what am I going to cover? I'm going to cover what is a healthy diet, why is it important, and how to eat healthier. So really how to put it into practice and to keep it going. So as Fearghal said, January is often a time where we want to make some changes to our lifestyle, but sometimes it doesn't last very long into the new year. So the first thing is why is a healthy diet important? And so we know that diet provides all the nutrients that we need for growth and repair. It helps you keeps you strong and healthy, and it also helps to prevent sort of diet-related chronic diseases such as heart disease, including heart attack and stroke, with Meritxell also spoke about. Keeping a healthy weight, which we know a healthy weight means it lowers your risk of heart disease and type 2 diabetes, some cancers, and then gut health, which has that nice link to also hopefully helping to reduce your risk of heart disease. And when it comes to diet and heart disease, we know that there are many risk factors that increase your risk of developing heart and circulatory disease. Now, some we can't change, such as our age and ethnicity, but there are many others, such as having a high blood cholesterol, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and having excess weight, where we know that making healthy lifestyle changes, such as diet, stopping smoking, being more active, can actually reduce your risk of having increased risk of heart disease. So you can see that having a healthy diet is integral to lowering your risk of heart and circulatory diseases. But the big question is always, what is a healthy diet? And you may have seen or read in the media that the Mediterranean diet and how healthy olive oil is for you. Veganuary is very popular at the moment, so you might be thinking, oh, vegan diet is the way to go. The DASH diet is a particular diet for lowering hypertension that focuses on particular foods that help lower your blood pressure, including salt and plenty of fruit and vegetables. And the Asian diet is vegetarian but has a focus on soy products, and the Nordic diet also has a focus on oily fish. Now, they all have quite good evidence to say that they are good diets to follow to improve your health and your heart health. But it can be a bit confusing because if you're not at this moment in time where you want to give up animal protein, the vegan diet might not be something you want to follow. You might not have hypertension or high blood pressure. So is the DASH diet something that you want to follow? Equally, you might love Asian cuisine, but not every day. and you might not be a fan, a fan of fish. So it can be confusing in terms of understanding or thinking about what you should really be eating to have a healthy heart. And actually, the best way to think about it with all these diets is to think about what they have in common that helps people eat more healthily and also helps lower your risk of cardiovascular disease. And it's these foundations here, that there's more emphasis on plant-based foods. It's not saying no to animal products, but it's saying that the basis, the foundation of your diet should be on plant-based foods. So that means fruit and vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds, the oils that come with them, rather than saturated fats like butter. And if there is meat and dairy in the diet, then they're eaten in small amounts. And a key thing that there's less processed meat and foods high in saturated fat and salt, and sugar is limited. So the diet is less processed food, but it's the foundation is on whole foods. And that's something that we can do. So it's the mix of these foods that actually provide us with the benefit, rather than individual foods, like sometimes we see with the Mediterranean diet and olive oil. And that makes it much, much easier to think about our diets as a whole, because we can then be much more flexible with the types of foods that we choose and weave it into our everyday eating habits and lifestyles. And I really love this image here. It's the image of our Eat Well guide, and it gives us a real visual of the types of foods we should be including in our diet, as well as the proportions of the food we should be having. So if you're looking at your plate, about just over a third should be our healthy carbohydrates that are high in fiber. The same with fruits and vegetables. A quarter should be a variety of good quality protein. So you can see there's a mix of plant-based and animal proteins as well. And then a very small bit is going to be based on choosing healthy fats and oils. So when we think about trying to implement sort of the healthy guidelines, UK healthy eating guidelines, it's much simpler to think about sort of small food swaps that you can make, rather than changing your diet as a total. And it's these sort of, easy swaps that will make it easy to keep, habits that are going to last you a while. So what are they? The first thing really is to focus on fiber. And we all know that choosing foods high in fiber, such as fruit and vegetables, pulses, nuts and whole grains, have many health benefits from keeping your digestive system healthy and preventing constipation, and that's always a good thing. We know that certain types of fiber foods, especially oats and beans, they can help lower our cholesterol. And as Meritxell said, we also know that eating more fiber helps feed the healthy bacteria in your gut. So you can see how it all links to, helping you to have a healthy diet, but also healthy heart. So you can see some of the easy swaps you can make. You can have more fruit and vegetable, keep the skins on your potatoes, be choosing breads and cereals that are higher in fiber. And if you're thinking on looking at snacks, try and move away from cakes and biscuits and have things like popcorn, plain popcorn, fruit, or something like oats and hummus. So you're beginning to see it's much easier to get fiber in your diet than most people think. The second thing is to vary your protein. And as a population, we could all do with eating less protein, but it doesn't necessarily mean no animal protein. What we're trying to get people to do is have that nice varied intake of the different types of protein, and including more plant-based protein. So you can go half and half. You don't have to go the whole way. You can replace some of your meals with proteins such as beans and pulses, or soy mince or corn. Or you could even go all the way and try a meat-free meals one day a week. Or if I was seeing you in person, I'd get you to put your hands up and see how many people were doing veganuary. But that is, the ways that we are trying to get people to think about promoting a better range of protein in your diet. So the next thing is looking at choosing healthy fats, and again, in terms of heart health, we know that all fat is not bad for your heart. So rather than avoiding all fat, it's important to eat the right ones. And we know again from research that swapping out the unhealthy saturated fats for fats, the healthy, swapping out the saturated fats such as butter and lard, coconut oil, processed meat, for the healthy fats, which are unsaturated fats, can actually help lower your cholesterol. So a good tip is when you're looking at vegetable oils, actually on the bottom shelves of a lot of supermarkets, you have 100% vegetable oils. And this is in fact rapeseed oil, which is very similar to olive oil. It's a monounsaturated oil, but it's much cheaper. Oily fish, although they're high in fat, they actually have the healthy omega-3 fats, which are good for joints as well as your heart. But if you're not into fish, the vegetarian sources are things like rapeseed oil, flax, chia seed, and soya. And last but not least, really, it's about meeting your 5 a day. And as a population, I think we understand the motto, meet your 5 a day, and what it means. But actually, in practice, from recent nutrition and diet surveys, only 28% of us are meeting the 5 a day. So this is one of the goals that we all need to try and work harder on. And what we've got to remember is fish, fresh, frozen, tinned, they all count. Go for those in season, they'll taste nicer and cheaper. And then when you're thinking about sweetening things such as your cereals or plain yogurts, sweeten them with fruit instead of sugar or honey. And choosing things like more fruit as a snack, or try and aim for more than 2 veg at a main meal, so half your plate being full of vegetables. So this is one area that we could all do with working on a little bit more. But the key thing is making these simple changes that last for a long time, not just for January. And you can do this in other ways, like being a savvy shopper. We know that most food products now have color-coded nutritional information on the front, which tells at a glance whether a food is low, green, medium, amber, or high in fat, sugar, saturates, or salts. And what we're aiming for is to choose foods that have more greens than any of the colors on the food package. And you can also look at the ingredients. Ingredient lists are always put so that the first ingredient is the most in the product. So you can see with this popcorn that actually toffee is the most abundant ingredient in this popcorn. And what we would prefer to see is that little writing at the bottom there, say popping corn, to be right at the top, and the toffee and the glucose syrup, etc., to be at the bottom, or not even at all in your packages. So you can use the front of pack and looking at ingredients to help you make better choices when you're doing your shopping. And don't forget to keep an eye on your portion size. How much you eat is important as what you eat, particularly if you're looking to manage your weight better. And you can use household items like spoons and cups, but an easier way is actually to use your hand. And this is for men, women, and children. So children have smaller hands, smaller portions. So it works across all genders and children. And you can see it's a good way just to eyeball, what portion sizes you're having by seeing what sort of fits in the palm of your hand or the whole of your hand in terms of trying to get that balance right. So, hand portions are as good as anything when you're looking to watch your portion sizes. And what we've got to remember is it doesn't need to be expensive either. So tin food, a great way for quick and healthy and inexpensive meals. What you've just got to look out for is to make sure that you're choosing those without any added sugar or salt. And the same with frozen, also tend to be cheaper than fresh sometimes. And it can be more nutritious as well, because the freezing process, they're picked at the height of when they've got maximum nutrient content, so they can be healthier sometimes than fruit that's been left outside or left on a shelf for a long time. And make it seasonal. We know, as I said before, that it can be cheaper and it can taste better. So, seasonal wonky fruit can be cheaper and a really good way to try and get diversity into your diet in terms of the types of fruits and vegetables you have. And also there's no harm in trying the economy line. So we know that value products, you know, have a similar nutritional content compared to branded and non-branded. So you're not going to be losing out necessarily on a nutrition content, but it's a good way, again, of, you know, making sure that you're getting a variety of foods in your basket, but perhaps not at the expense of trying your branded type products. Now, we're all thinking of the pennies a little bit in terms of energy, conserving energy. So if you're putting your oven on or you're cooking on the hob, try and think about cooking in bulk, cook a bit more so that you can have stews, casseroles, soups, etc. for the following day, or you can freeze it. And again, you know, freezing, if you're cooking a little bit more, freezing the excess means that you're also avoiding waste. And the same goes for things like a lot of people have bread that might be going a bit stale. You can use that as toast or make it into breadcrumbs. And I always have, there's always one banana that's going brown on my counter. You don't need to throw it away. Take it out the skin, put it in a bag, put it in the freezer, and then you can use that to add to smoothies or homemade banana bread. So it doesn't need to be expensive, and you can still get the same mix of foods that are going to help improve your diet. Last but not least, get inspiration from recipes. Fearghal mentioned we've got this amazing recipe, load of recipes on our website from Heart Matters, which have full nutritional analysis, so you can see exactly what's in the recipes you're making, and you can search by ingredient, your dietary preference, if you've got any conditions such as high cholesterol or high blood pressure. You can search to find the particular recipes that you want. And these recipes on the screen are the most popular recipes over the last 2 years that people have been searching for. So you can see that it's a whole array from one pot soups and stews to tray bakes that have got all the protein and vegetables that you need. So it's, you know, it's saving on your gas or electricity. It also uses tin foods such as fish, so you can see the tuna fish cakes. So again, easy ways to and cheaper ways to make some healthy food. And we also have desserts and things that use up milk that may be coming to its expire date, or leftover fruit. So you can see you can get inspiration from a whole range of recipes that are available. And my last thought really is just this, that there really is no risk to eating well, just plenty of benefits. And changing your diet is something that you can do today. So it's an easy ask for everyone to have a go at in January, and then build on those habits that are going to last a lifetime. Thank you.
Tracy, thank you very much indeed for that extensive presentation. We now turn to our question and answer session, and already plenty of you have been putting in your questions. Just guys, take it up if you think it's relevant to you, just if you answer. But I think this one, Meritxell, probably for you. Does heart medication destroy gut health? And if so, how can this be remedied?
Hi, thank you for this question. So, no, in general, the gut microbiota is not destroyed by the drugs that people is taking to protect their hearts. Only antibiotics can potentially destroy the gut microbiota. And what we were trying to explain today is that depending on your gut microbiota, maybe you respond to a drug better than another person that will. And just to a little comment, not regarding these questions, is about statins, because somebody may have, I have seen a little question about the statins. Just to make clear, statins is the best available drug we have to treat cardiovascular diseases. So I haven't said the opposite in any of my talk, just to make this clear.
Okay. Thank you, Meritxell. There's a further question on antibiotics, and it's a specific, but if someone's on antibiotics for 6 months of the year, what effect will that have on gut bacteria relating to heart health?
So that's a very interesting question. Nevertheless, I didn't know you can be that long on antibiotics, that 6 months on antibiotics. It can be, but people that are that long in antibiotics, normally what they are trying to do is to treat them with gut microbiota, because many of these gut microbiota can be destroyed, yeah. And this for sure may affect how do they respond for the heart drugs, but there are not enough clinical trials that have been done observing this, and what it has been done is very little, and they just observe that, for example, some drugs are changing the gut microbiota, but then this same study, because normally it's a little one, this same study done in another country or with another population leads to another response. So in general, we will have to be able to see when we are ready to do personalized medicine, this will come very useful. But in the meanwhile, what we have to do is in general to have a healthy diet, to have a healthy bacteria, and every time we can donate our feces so we can understand what the drugs are doing to the gut bacteria in more deeper.
Thank you, Meritxell. Listen, the questions are flying in, so I'm going to try and canter through them as quickly as possible. And apologies if sometimes there'll be something repeated coming back up, but that's just the way this rolls. So, is there any additional risk if someone has celiac disease? Perhaps Tracy, is that for you?
No, I don't. With celiac disease, it does affect, if it's untreated, it does affect sort of the digestion of certain foods, and it's but once it's treated, the gut, the health of the gut comes back to normal. So it shouldn't really matter as long as you're having a healthy diet. And obviously with celiac disease, the foods that you are removing are the gluten containing foods, and once you take those out of your diet, the gut returns to normal. So once your gut returns to normal, it should be functioning normally in terms of digesting your food. So a healthy balanced diet in that respect will help the gut bacteria form.
Yeah, this question from Richard Harvey, which has got 4 upvotes, but he asked, do blood thinners or statins block absorption of vitamin K, thereby increasing the risk of atherosclerosis, even though they improve blood flow? And should patients with atherosclerosis be taking increased vitamin K to compensate?
Okay, so no, we don't know that. There have been a few studies trying to check this. It's a very good question. In fact, we don't know how this is if this is affecting vitamin K or not. But in any case, just to also about the thrombus that it is formed in atherosclerosis, in case there is some confusion here, we don't know when this happens. I mean, we can have all plaques, okay? But some plaques are going to be stable and other plaques are going to be unstable. And when they are unstable, they will break and release this thrombus. But we don't know in which people they are going to break the plaques. And it's not related to blood thinners or vitamin K. So in reality, we don't need to worry about this for the developing of atherosclerosis.
Okay. Another one for you, Meritxell. It's actually 2 questions in one. In terms of Mediterranean diet, does red wine kill good gut bacteria? And what do you think of gut drinks like Actimel to help gut health?
So I'm sure Tracy will be able to help me too, but what I think about the because when I was doing my PhD, I remember in nutrition, I remember that we used to say that drinking 1 glass of red wine is part of the Mediterranean diet, and that this is a healthy habit if you only drink 1 glass, maybe. But it is not 100% sure. Maybe it was the industry of the one who was reaching to this conclusion, but it is not killing the bacteria. That's it's not going to do. And about the Actimel and of these things, I think that the best person to ask might be the GP or the doctor or the cardiologist, because we don't know still the knowledge to know if everybody should be taking this. Probably a person with a cardiovascular disease is not going to harm them to have something like Actimel, but for the normal population or for children or just to prevent it, I wouldn't say that this is recommended. What do you think, Tracy?
Yes, I think with probiotics, so live yogurts, Actimel, etc., they have, where there's most evidence actually is on people who have been in hospital on longer term antibiotics. That's been shown to help sort of reinvigorate the gut in terms of helping it produce more healthy gut bacteria. For the normal population, they're out there. It doesn't seem to do any harm. So if you wanted to take the probiotics, that's something you can do. But going back to what Meritxell said right at the beginning about the healthy gut is about a diverse community of microbes, and each of them prefer different foods. So really the best evidence around gut health is thinking about improving your diet as a whole. So I talked about the foundations of what a healthy diet is. Things like probiotic, they're like, excuse the analogy here, it's about like the icing on the cake. They are the good to haves, but it's not going to make your diet healthier or your guts produce more good bacteria on its own. So it's one of those foods that is out there. It doesn't seem to do any harm. You can take it. If you want the live bacteria, it's probably cheaper as well, just to get a normal natural yogurt, which has the live bacteria in it as well.
Another one, similar theme, but different product, if you like. It's got about 5 votes on this question. Does taking multivitamins help?
Multivitamins are, I guess, they're just they're providing vitamins in another form, but we know just in terms of the body that even for heart health that it's better getting your vitamins from the food and vegetables and fruit that you're eating rather than a supplement. The only exception to that is vitamin D, which particularly at this time of the year, the recommendation is to take a vitamin D supplement. But going back again once to a healthy diet should provide you with all the vitamins and minerals that you need.
Okay. This one from Gavin Wiltshire. Do you think increasing the diversity of gut bacteria will be useful only as a preventative measure, or do you think it might reduce existing atherosclerotic buildup?
So I think it will be for both, because there are several articles where they have shown that there is this regression of the atherosclerotic plaque. So I think that if you change your gut into a more diverse, you will have both effects. You will delay the formation of this atherosclerosis, but also you will be able to revert it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is a specific, Tracy, on olive oil. Does it have any negative effects if heating it to fry onions for curries or frying up meals in general? Is there any, I suppose, is there any chemical change going on there?
No, with most oils, it's only when you heat to very, very high temperatures that you change the sort of the chemical structure, and that sort of manifests in the oil not tasting nice. So that's a good indicator that the oil has sort of gone off. But for most people, for everyday cooking on your hob or your cooker, heating to those temperatures shouldn't be a problem in terms of your oil.
Can I say something about this also? Because my supervisor from the PhD, he was a world expert in frying oils. So he has done all these studies, but always with olive oil. And he was saying that even, because he was studying all this, okay, and analyzing the oils and everything, even after 60 times you have reused the same olive oil in the, where you put the chips, not the frying pan, what we used to have before that is electric and beer. Well, there you can reuse it like 60 times, the frying machine.
Right. Okay.
Deep fat fryer, yeah.
Okay.
This one.
Somebody's drilling down here into not just the difference between Mediterranean and other diets, but the constituent ingredients, particularly in dairy. And they're asking, is it true that part of Mediterranean's diet's healthiness is goat or sheep milk, yogurt and cheese, rather than cow's milk?
I think the Mediterranean diet it uses quite a variety of dairy products. I think dairy, whether it's coming from sheep or cow's milk, you know, again, it's not going to be that particular food that's creating the health benefits of the diet. It's the diet as a whole. So it will be the type of dairy that you're using, the types of oils that you're using, more fruit and vegetables. So it's that whole balance, that foundation that's creating the health benefit rather than just that one particular food.
One here wanting to help you out, Meritxell, and they're asking, do you want us to donate poo? And if so, where do we send it?
Thank you. Yeah, so this is a good question to emphasize what I'm doing. So what I would like you to do is to go to every time you see your cardiologist or your GP, try to convince them that they should participate with scientists in trials to ask for poo, because it is also a problem for the medical doctors to ask for this. We had here Meritxell, who is doing this IL-2 clinical trial, that she is amazing recruiting patients, and she was very keen to get these samples. But yeah, in general, it's not that you have to send me to any place, it's that we will continue. We are now recruiting new patients for another clinical trial with another investigator here, and we will be asking also for the people to donate poo. So the idea is not that you personally send them to me, it's just that we try among all of us to stop making of a taboo thing the donation of poo, because it can be very helpful to science.
And I'm glad we've been able to help put a little focus on that this afternoon. So somebody's asking here, could I be looking to reduce my statin dosage if my cholesterol level is consistently improving? I'm currently on 80 milligram dosage following a triple heart bypass 12 months ago.
I think that I cannot answer this, but my logical will tell you that no, you just continue because you have consistent levels of cholesterol, pretty sure, because of these statins. So, but you better ask your cardiologist, because I am a scientist, but I am not a cardiologist. Sorry.
Okay. This is similar to one asked earlier, but do tablets to protect the stomach from the effects of daily aspirin stop any benefits of healthy diet being absorbed by the stomach or gut?
So I'm not sure what type of tablet they're probably talking about. Maybe an antacid that probably dampens down the acid in the gut, which is a good thing because that actually helps the gut digest and absorb food better. So I would say that it will, it's doing its job in terms of helping to improve the absorption and digestion of food in the gut.
Yeah, this is a specific one. I'm not sure if it can be answered by either, but I'm going to fire it out anyway. I'm taking atorvastatin 40 milligrams daily for 10 years. They feel it's responsible for muscle loss and lower weight. Is there a way of reversing muscle loss without giving up that particular drug? Perhaps a bit.
I guess
I think.
exercise, no?
Yeah, I think this is a question they would need to speak to their GP about. Yeah, we don't know.
We recommend that you do take that one to your GP, or if you want to fire it in by email to the one that sent you out the link, then perhaps we'll try and answer that separately. So did I ask this? I know I have chronic pancreatitis as well as atherosclerosis, and I've been told to eat a low fiber diet because of the pancreatitis. What can I do to build up good gut bacteria? Also, don't statins prevent buildup of plaque on artery walls? I'm conscious that some of the questions are sort of medical,
very individual
focused as well, and individual. Conscious too that it's perfectly fine if that's not in your area. I'm just trying to balance out because there's clearly been a lot of questions in here. I've been asked and firing them out. So once again, we'll try and answer those separately for you. So this is one from John Johnson. What's the healthiest way of cooking veg? Is it boiling, steeping, microwave? And is it beneficial to use any water that's used for cooking veg?
Really good question. I think he's answered most of those himself. So well done there. I think we know that with a lot of fruit and vegetables, they water soluble. So if you cook them too high a temperature and in too much water, the water soluble vitamins go out into the water. So absolutely, if you can use that water in gravies or soup, it means you're catching those. So any sort of cooking that's you're using a smaller amount of fluid. So steaming is very good, microwaving is very good. That helps the retention of those water soluble vitamins. But yeah, good question, and he basically answered it himself. Thank you.
And this one from Kerry Will, just drills down into the way that people must think in terms of having heart disease. But she's asking, can you have the odd treat on the diet, for example, chocolate, takeaway, etc., if being diagnosed with heart disease?
Yes, of course. I mean, what you've got to try and remember is, try and get it right most of the time. And, life is what it is. And, having treats now and then are not the problem in terms of, any negative health benefits. It's what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. That's sort of key. So getting it right, 5 out of 7 days, 70% of the time means that you're doing a pretty good job. So I wouldn't worry too much about the odd treat now and then.
Okay, and a question from JR. Can you compare and contrast the role of pre and probiotics in improving gut health?
Yeah, so prebiotics are, I touched a little bit on it when I talked about fiber. They're the types of food that they feed the bacteria in the gut, so it keeps them nice and healthy. And probiotics, they are the gut bacteria themselves. So things like the Actimel, live yogurts, they're all foods that you can eat that can try and increase the population of good bacteria in the gut. And things like sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, fibers, they're all foods that help feed those healthy bacteria. So keeps them producing all the good things that they're meant to do for good health. So that's the difference between the two of them, and both are good. So once you've got good bacteria, you want to make sure you've got plenty of it, and it's they're working well. Hence, high fiber being an important part of a healthy diet.
This is from an anonymous attendee who's a nutritionist, to say agreeing that it's best to get vitamins from food, but from experience, as people age, they absorb less well. And so they're recommending omega-3 magnesium being important for heart health. Would that be true?
Yeah, I think what you've got to remember is that, when we're talking about, healthy diet as a whole, we're looking, it's sort of it's a public health message. It's not individualized. So of course, there are going to be people that are going to benefit from additional vitamins and minerals as required. But you know, just in general, in terms of healthy eating, it's about getting the right balance of food that's going to provide, you know, the best nutrients for you. But it's a public health message at a population level, and so individuals may need additional vitamins and minerals depending on their needs. So good question, but you know, it's still broad in terms of, you know, how we explain healthy eating to everyone, and individuals will need separate advice.
Meritxell, one for you. Chris Brooks says there are problems from mouth bacteria creating heart disease. Are they the same as the gut bacteria discussed?
So this is a very good question. So in fact, they are not the same, but they are the same. I mean, we are talking about the gut bacteria because they are the most well known, but we have bacteria in other parts of our body about which we know less. And we have, for example, the nasal bacteria and the mouth bacteria. The only thing that the ones that causes the heart diseases are that sometimes when you get an infection in your mouth, this produces a myocarditis in your heart. And this is a different thing. Is when you have something pathogen in your body that enters through the buccal cavity. But yeah, we should also be studying what if there is any we could potentially be studying also getting a swab of our mouth to also correlate. This could be, for example, very important when we had COVID and all this. There are even some papers that have been done where they have analyzed different swabs from different parts of the gut microbiota to correlate with COVID, because this was a respiratory disease that was causing also some heart disease as a consequence. So they were getting samples of the bacteria from different parts to see if there was a correlation. Yeah.
Okay. Meritxell and Tracy, thank you both very much for your illuminating presentations and answering your questions. There's a big range of questions, some very specific, some general, and a lot of them. And any ones that we haven't been able to answer, we will undertake to get them answered for you. Valerie Broom asked for that undertaking, and we'll give it to you. So thank you for joining us today. Before we go, we asked at the start how you felt about your knowledge of heart health on a scale of 1 to 5. So we'll ask the same question again on a level of 1 to 5. Have you any greater understanding now of heart health, or in which case you mark it high, but if not, mark it low. And we value your contributions in terms of that vote. And as I say, if we haven't managed to answer your question today, then we encourage you to visit our heart helpline, where you can contact our dedicated clinical team about your query, but those that are sent in will attempt to answer directly. Just a reminder, we'll continue our live and ticking series with some exciting topics coming up in the next few months. Next month, we'll focus on CPR and the BHF's work into improving survival rates from cardiac arrest. And of course, next month is Heart Month. And in March, we'll highlight the researchers investigating how aging affects our heart and circulatory systems. We'll post a link in the chat for you to register to these upcoming events. And our live and ticking series are monthly, as you know, and we strive to produce the best events possible. Your feedback and comments are crucial to help plan and develop future events. So we ask if you complete the survey at the end of this event or through an email you'll receive in the coming days. But in the meantime, thank you again for joining us, and goodbye.